So I wanted to talk about this article from Mike Dano over at Light Reading. I will leave it in the description down below so you guys could check it out. So yesterday we had Dish Network's earnings call. And during the earnings call, there was a question asked in the Q&A about Band 26. Would they be able to buy it? When are they going to be able to buy it? And is it necessarily a necessity for them to have it? Charlie said no. It's not going to add a huge amount of spectrum to their already existing portfolio that they have. They have N71 600 megahertz as part of their portfolio. Now, is that nationwide? I don't know. I don't really get too excited about Dish. You guys don't see me make any videos. I just don't see a bright future for them. There is no capital. He said it on the call. I need capital. He needs money. They don't have a lot of money. Their traditional business is dying out, the satellite business. So Dish expected to walk away from T-Mobile's 800 megahertz spectrum. So right now, I'm no rocket scientist and I'm not the brightest guy on the tree, but I can look through their financials and I can tell you very confidently they don't have the capital cash on hand to buy this spectrum. They just don't. So now now the questions are coming, well, what's going to happen to the spectrum? Is it just going to sit there? Is T-Mobile going to use it? So here are my thoughts on that, just very briefly. So currently in T-Mobile's current build, as it stands, with the capital that they have allocated for it, they did not include Band 26 or N26 radios in any of this build, according to my knowledge. They did not. Dish, they did. Their radios, they support N26 on those radios. I've seen it in the logs from engineers. They support it. T-Mobile, on the other hand, they did not put in any radios for the spectrum. So T-Mobile likely was anticipating to not have that spectrum in its portfolio because it was part of the merger concession that they would have to give up Band 26 and Dish would have to buy it for $3.5 billion. In my opinion, that's not a fair trade-off, in my opinion. I think Dish, as part of the concessions, should have just gotten that spectrum and call it even. They shouldn't have had to pay another $3.5 billion for 13.5 megahertz SMR spectrum. That shouldn't have happened, in my opinion. At the end of it, Dish is only going to be able to deploy it in a 5x5 channel at best. So that it's not going to add a whole lot to their network in terms of speed. It might help with coverage, but it's not going to add a whole lot in terms of speed. Same for T-Mobile. So that spectrum is very unattractive, so to speak. So if Dish doesn't buy it, T-Mobile is likely not going to find a buyer for it. So it's going to sit there likely until either Dish buys it sometime way in the future if they get there, or T-Mobile decides to make it a part of the capital allocation to deploy the spectrum, to actually climb sites again and put radios on towers that support that spectrum. I highly doubt it because, like I said, this is not groundbreaking spectrum. That 5x5 channel is not going to, it's not going to be a night and day difference. It's just not. And you can't contiguously add it to the N71 spectrum, so you have to use NR aggregation, and T-Mobile will likely need additional device support to support N26 if it's not already on the devices that are currently in consumers' hands. So again, that's just kind of briefly what I had on my mind about it. I just don't see this being an important piece to the puzzle for Dish or for T-Mobile. So honestly, T-Mobile is probably just going to sit on that spectrum for years to come. It's not going to be talked about much. It's going to be forgotten about because it's not going to do much for either company. maybe someone else buys it, maybe a regional player, maybe US Cellular, who knows? It is, at the end of the day, it is a nationwide channel at 5x5. But like I said, and in some regions, some border regions like mine and, with Canada, it's at the very end, because of interference issues, Sprint had to deploy it, had to size the channel from 5x5 to 3x3. So, I mean, this is not anything close to Goldilocks spectrum here. So, and I don't believe it's worth 3.5 billion in my opinion. Maybe it is, maybe there's something that I'm not looking at, but I don't think it's worth the asking price. So make sure you guys like, share, subscribe to the channel, follow my social media outlets for more updates and interactions. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.